Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well because today we're talking about music, and today we have back again special guest Andy Rambles. How's it going?
Hey, glad to be back, man. Thanks for having me
Awesome.
on another video.
No problem, no problem. So today we're talking about it's something we talked about last time, Christmas albums that don't suck. I don't know what your thoughts on are Christmas albums or what we do listen to at this time of year.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of the viewers will probably agree with me if anyone's had like a grunt work job, but I think, say for about two jobs I've had, you're always getting the piped in Mariah Carey, Michael Bublé, and I think it's a good way to make people detest Christmas music, but there's actually some really good stuff out there. So yeah, we'll shine a light on some of those.
Exactly. Like it's the kind of music you can't escape. If, like you said, you're working somewhere like retail or anything like that, or you're just going through a mall, going through anywhere, you're going to hear this. So, like, there is good stuff out there. You have to find it, but there is good stuff.
Yeah, you have to
So,
dig sometimes. Yeah.
exactly. I don't know. Do you want to start first with your number five or so?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, well, I think the perfect way to start is with this guy, Bob Dylan, and
Classic.
this is get this at your local Starbucks anywhere on CD. It's his Christmas
Yeah.
in the Heart, and I remember when this came out. I mean, my buddies and I were all cracking jokes about it. Bob Dylan, of course, is Jewish, or he was brought up that way, and a lot of people were like, "Is this a joke?" Or I know a lot of critics were. It got mixed to favorable reviews, but critics, a lot of them were saying, is he just trying to take the mickey out of Christmas? Like, is he serious? And obviously Bob, as per usual, said, well, if you feel that way, then this record isn't for you. So of course this came out in '09, which, I'd say he was having another resurgence around then because he did an album that did really well and did platinum at the time that year, and then this came out and it did fairly well too. So this was produced by Bob himself under the pseudonym Jack Frost, and it was recorded in Santa Monica, California, and in May. So I don't know. Hopefully, he got himself in the Christmas spirit. I think that this really works wonders for the most part. Obviously, the one and only single definitely got the haters hating even more because it was "Must Be Santa," and it's kind of this fun like polka type music. It's not very indicative of what else you get on here, and I think for the most part he plays it straight, and I think that comes across really well. So I think if you're curious, or if you kind of wrote this off when it came out, as I think I did, if you just check out "Do You Hear What I Hear" or "Hark the Angels Sing," "Heralding Angels Sing," or even "Oh Come All You Faithful," if you check out any of those tracks, and I mean, I didn't get the first pressing, but I was looking at this today, and it comes on a kind of candy cane red vinyl. So, and then you got some really bored looking people there. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, that's the number five pick right there.
I mean, that album, same thing when it came out, I was like, this has to be one of those like you're trying to
It's
get
a
out of your
joke,
comp.
right?
Yeah, it's a
Everyone was
joke,
thinking it was a joke. Yeah.
but you keep coming back to it. It's like, well, it can't be bad because I need to hear it again and again. And
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
think I
yeah,
put it on every year
yeah,
without fail. So yeah.
exactly. Yeah, good pick,
Yeah.
good pick. All right. My first pick, I'm going with a local band. For those of you who don't know, we're filming live from Vancouver Island. So
That's
I'm going with Astro Color. Oh, what up? Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So this is actually their debut, which pretty big move to make your debut, a Christmas album. There's the back there.
Yeah, that's
Um,
bold.
but it's yeah, it's bold. But I got this. I think it came out 2015. Yeah, it came out 2015. I picked this up a few years ago, and it's just a really cool. It's like very ambient, kind of shoegazy. If you're into stuff like Air or Massive Attack, it's sort of like that. It's really good background music, and I don't mean background in the way that like you can ignore it, doesn't matter, but background in the way that if you're having like a party and you just want something kind of cool, something a little different to have on, where you'll recognize that the track, it's all like very standard Christmas songs. So you have like We Three Kings, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The First Noel, like all classics. Um, but it's just sort of ambient and they kind of trickle along. It doesn't, it's not heavy, but it's just cool. It's just a different vibe, and it's like something you're not going to hear on a Spotify playlist of Christmas music or in the mall or
Something
anything like.
different. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that's the pick I'm going for my number five.
That is a really inspired pick. And, I want to go listen to that now because I know Astrocolor quite well. And I remember looking them up at some time and going, like you said, like that's their first release. Like it seems kind of
Yeah,
ballsy to do a Christmas album first. Most artists, it's their 10th album is the Christmas album or something. So yeah, what a way to debut. But
yeah,
they're still going, they're still doing it. I see they play every New Year's. So yeah, good
yeah,
for them. And now I
exactly.
want to
Yeah,
check that out. So there
yeah,
you go. Yeah. All right, good choice. Okay, this is Chris Squire is my next
nice.
choice.
Yeah,
So it's Chris Squire's Swift Choir, which is hard to say 5 times fast. And this came out in 2009. It was also recorded in '09. And we never got a proper Chris Squire second solo record. And I won't say that this takes its place at all, but it's got some nice kind of proggy playing on 16th century English traditional Christmas music. And, there's some French standards in there that he does. And we even got treated to some Chris Squire lead vocals on maybe a handful of tracks, I would say. So it's really nice to hear his voice. And, I unfortunately didn't pick this one up till he passed away because I just thought it was some kind of budget title. Um, and it came out on Stone Ghost Records. So I don't remember this getting that much promotion. You had to be like a hardcore Chris Squire fan to hear this. But where I find a lot of like prog and heavy metal Christmas cover albums usually get a little cheesy, like they're doing all these death metal solos on, "Oh Come All You Faithful" or whatever. This is for the most part played quite respectfully. And warning to everyone, it's not an actual Swiss choir. It's just they called it that because it's got a nice ring to it. It's just Chris and four other guys in the studio, and they're working their magic, and they make it sound as such. It's pretty convincing. It's produced by Chris himself and Gerard Johnson. And you even get some Alan White on the very last track, which is "Run with the Fox," which was their original, I guess, which I believe was a single before this, and they just tacked it onto the record. But anyway, it's a very interesting listen. Steve Hackett appears on guitars. So yeah, for a Yes fan, this is a great little stocking stuffer. I don't think it's out on LP, but you can still get whatever this thing is if you're like me and you still like buying CDs. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's don't judge an album by its cover because it's a cheap cover. Like it looks like something like we could make in Paint or Photoshop or something. And the fox isn't even like attached. Like he's just kind of floating in a tree somewhere. But yeah, Chris Squire, I mean, rest in peace. One of my favorites ever. So there you go.
yeah, totally. I think, yeah, even like Rick Wakeman has some Christmas music. And I mean, it's
Yes.
good. He's a great keyboard player, but the Chris Squire album just feels a lot more Yes associated,
Yeah, he has
Yeah,
that feel. I mean, he was the steadfast member, right? And
exactly. Yeah.
just his bass playing alone made those first 50 years of Yes. And they're still trucking, they're still going, but it was never the same after he passed away. So you do get
Yeah,
that true Yes flavor, like you said.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My next pick, I don't actually own a physical copy. It came out last year, but it's now on physical release on Escape Hatch Records. They're a record label based out of California. I've talked about a few times on my channel here before. They do ska
Yeah.
and reggae and stuff
I
like
love
that.
that record label now, thanks to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a Black Market dub, so Black Market dub Christmas. And I listened to it a bunch of times, listened to it today on the bus on my way to work. And it's just a lot of fun. Like, I mean, similar to Astro Color in the way that it's sort of like ambient, it's dub, it's not background music. You got to pay attention to it, but it's just like a really cool take on on these like Christmas classics. So it's again, there's no originals on here. It's all kind of the holiday standards. But I'll say too, I wrote this down as a note. So it's out now, physical release on Physical Hatch. So I bought a copy on Bandcamp. It's also on Spotify. You can stream it there. But if you're going to
Yes.
buy it on vinyl, it's on what they described as candy cane red and white, which is pretty good. I like that.
Very nice.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just really, really fun. It's I've got another kind of similar album coming up that feels a little more dated. And listening to this, it feels really fresh. Like the production is really good. It still sounds a lot like classic dub and kind of roots reggae, but modern, right? Like they're kind of emulating a lot of the substance and style, but using modern production, and it just sounds really, really good. So if you're into, reggae music and dub music, and you haven't heard this album, really, really check it out. I'll probably put a purchasing link in the description. Maybe a
Yes.
link for everything, just to be fair, but specifically this one, I'll have a link in the description.
Yeah, exactly. They need your support because they really don't have many monthly follows or whatever they call them on Spotify. And I discovered it like a month or sorry, a day or two ago. And
Yeah.
because this was a record label Darcy champions on his channel, and I thought,
Yeah.
wow, and it almost made my list, but I thought I can't just discover and listen to it once or twice. But I knew that we would discuss it, and yeah, it's some great dub music. There's one or two tracks where I wasn't a huge fan because I'm not a fan of those songs. Like I don't like the really kind of schmaltzy ones or whatever. But
Yeah.
even those are pretty convincing because it's instrumental, right? So it
Yeah.
doesn't sound as corny. And yeah, I mean that's a nice kind of current pick because we're choosing a lot of old records here. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true. All
yeah,
right.
great stuff.
Yeah, go ahead for number three.
Okay, well, so this guy is obviously became a controversial artist, but it's one of those love the art, don't necessarily
Mhm.
love the artist things. He isn't a guy like a lot of musicians that I would have liked to have a cup of coffee with or whatever. But it's Mark Kozelek of Red House Painters and Sun Kill Moon fans, and he actually did a Christmas album like in those few years that Pitchfork was championing him, and he was very popular with Benji coming out, and there was a reappraisal of a lot of his other work with both solo and the Red House Painters and all that. And he released this on his own record label, Caldo Verde Records, and a lot of people didn't think that a guy like this would do Christmas music because he seems kind of grumpy, like a bit of a Grinch. And if you were paying attention, though, his Christmas music goes back to at least '01, where he put out this, which was White Christmas Live. And there's only a soul cut, which is White Christmas itself. But for some reason, he named the whole album White Christmas. Very deceiving. So that's from '01. And then 5 years later, he came out with Little Drummer Boy Live. And he does Little Drummer Boy, of course, the namesake track. And then it's just kind of greatest hits from Red House Painters and stuff recorded with his finger picking style. And the audience even laughs when he first opens his mouth with the first line of Little Drummer Boy, because I think a lot of people think it's kind of a piss take, but he's taking it very seriously. So then, of course, we fast forward 8 years later, and finally Mark Kozelek Things Christmas Carols comes out, and it's really good. I thought maybe it was the nostalgia, but I listened to it today. It came out 9 years ago, and it's like he comes off very sentimental and like he means it, and like he maybe grew up with these Christmas carols himself. And he really doesn't do too many contemporary songs. He sticks to the choirs and the songs from the 16th century and 17th century. And so that's nice to see, though he does mix in 2000 Miles, of course, which is the Pretenders, I believe. Their lead singer herself wrote that one. And I believe in Father Christmas, which, of course, I don't have a single, but it's a Greg Lake track. So a version of it appears on the great ELP Works too, which is quite a sprawling effort. But yeah, you have it's just Mark. Like he's performing it, everything except a piano on one of the tracks, track 14. And so it's his performance, his production. As usual, he takes the cover photos, which sometimes are quite blurry on his releases. And it was recorded in San Francisco in November to December of 2013. So a full year before it actually came out, though it was announced that December of 2013. So fans had to wait about 11 and a half months, which that seems to be the rollout back in the day. But if anyone is doubting this one, I would definitely recommend the first track, Christmas Time Is Here. And he just performs it really beautifully. And I love his voice and his finger picking style. And yeah, that's even the one I thought was a misstep. It's a pretty consistent record. And I thought there was one he went a little too high on, but once I started listening to it, I thought, no, this one's good too. So if you're a fan of Red House Painters or anything, definitely give this one a listen.
Totally. And it's another one of those times when, people aren't really going to hear that on everyday playlists or anything, but it's worth
No, it would be
checking out.
jarring.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. My next pick. So if you're in Canada, this is a super well-known album. Outside
Yes.
of Canada, maybe not, but we're going with Bare Naked for the Holidays,
Oh yeah,
Bare Naked
that's a good
Ladies.
pick.
Again, even for some like younger people in Canada, they might only know Bare Naked Ladies as like, oh, the band that did One Week and maybe
Yeah.
the Big Bang Theory theme song.
Mm-hmm.
But this album is great, I think. It came out 2004 and it covers a lot of the Bare Naked Ladies styles. They started out really, really folky, then they kind of did pop rock. They have like a big sense of humor that doesn't always get picked for the singles, but a lot of their kind
True.
of deep cuts on their albums are more humorous. Um, you get kind of a little bit of Andy Cregan singing on here, but it's mostly Ed and Steven. They're still together at this point in the band. And yeah, you just get like their combination of originals like Green Christmas. That's a really good one.
Hmm.
You got their version of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen with Sarah McLachlan, and that's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like super well known. You
Yep.
even have Elf's Lament with Michael Bublé, who appears on that track. Again, we're not going to be talking about Michael Bublé's Christmas album. That's not what
I'm
we
not.
cover. Yeah, I'm not. But it's kind of
No,
cool on
thank you.
this track. Even
Yep.
I was listening to this track today or this album on the way home, talking with a coworker who again like had never heard of the Bare Naked Ladies. Like, who is this? But that song
Wow.
came on, and they're like, "Is that Michael Bublé?" And I was like, "It is." But you should listen to the rest of this album. Like that's a good song, but there's
No doubt. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's just you got to show Canada some love, and Bare Naked Ladies. I feel like they don't get the kind of respect they deserve, even up in Canada. So
That's
gotta
true. You're right.
give them a
Yeah.
shout out. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. I have some friends that would be giving a big thumbs up over that pick. And yeah, you're totally right. They don't get their due even up here, like especially as a writer, Steven, but Ed's written some really incredible pieces too. And you always hear, well, it's the guys that did One Week. And it's like, yeah, but think of the hundreds of other great songs. And yeah, good example, the Christmas album. All right, so next pick for me is going back quite a ways, and I only have the cassette. So it's the
Nice.
Beach Boys, of course, and this came out in '64. So this is some early Beach Boys, and it was recorded in 1963, kind of as a response to the Phil Spector Christmas album, which I'm not actually picking in my top five, but it probably is one of the best Christmas albums ever. I mean, it's got some incredible production, of course, goes without saying, and just the wealth of artists that he brought together was very amazing, and I think it inspired Brian a lot. Brian tried to play piano on it, but Phil Spector he actually fired him because he was subpar in Phil's opinion, and maybe is a little limited, like according to what Phil's used to, but just as a musical genius. He's something else. So he goes, okay, well, let's get the boys together and we're gonna do this Christmas album. And now it's kind of revered as one of the best holiday albums, and for good reason too. It came out with only one single, "The Man with All the Toys," and that's a definite highlight. And then they did their own "Little Saint Nick," which is like almost a cover of "Little Deuce Coupe," but just Christmasified. There's definitely a couple sort of bunk cuts on this that I'm not as into. I don't think Santa Claus is Coming to Town is very good. It kind of sounds like circus music to me. And the one about taking his little brother to see Santa Claus and he pulls down the beard. It's cute a couple times, but you won't put it on your favorites playlist or anything. But everything else, I play every year, and I really like this cassette. And of course, you can get it on vinyl and get the colored variants and all that kind of stuff, because they'll probably keep reissuing this until 100 years from now. But yeah, it's just that good. It's obviously the Beach Boys in one of their prime times, early to late 60s, of course. And yeah, Brian Wilson, what a genius.
Definitely. I actually have that on 8-track somewhere. I could have pulled it out, but
Nice.
I think it's in the drawer right behind me.
Okay.
Don't have an 8-track player, but
This is nice to have the 8-track though.
exactly, just something kind of cool. But yeah, that is a fun album. And the Beach Boys, they're one of those bands I want to learn more about, get more into. I'm definitely one of those, like, I have a greatest hits. That's good enough. But
That
maybe,
is a very deep dive to actually get into everything. Like there's just
yeah,
so much.
exactly. Yeah. But the Christmas album, that not a great place to start for a band, but you get an idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
So you got a tape. I've got a tape too. This is a compilation called A Reggae Christmas.
Oh,
Pull it up. I think it's on vinyl and CD. It came out in the 80s specifically. I think when I looked it up before, it was 84. Doesn't actually say on here anyway. Pretty sure it was 84. So reggae music around this time, there's definitely a lot of exceptions, and I could go into it more, but it's not doing great, broadly speaking. A lot of the roots artists are either not really performing anymore, or they've gone not new wave, but like really electronic inspired pop, like a lot of kind of like not great sounding electronic drum beats.
mm,
Um, Dancehall hasn't taken off yet. That's kind of like a mid to late 90s into the 2000s when you see like people like Shaggy and Sean Paul kind of bring that style
yeah,
of Caribbean
exactly.
music into the pop scene. So in this period, you do have a lot of really good artists on here. So you have like Ika Mouse, who's really good. You have
Yeah.
Don Carlos, Freddie McGregor, a great singer. I love Freddie McGregor. Pablo Black, who's a great artist as well. So you have a lot of good covers on here. It's
Mhm.
definitely a fun album for people that are already into that style of reggae and like it. You're not going to listen to this and make any new converts, I don't think. Um,
Probably not.
like to think about that Bob Dylan album. If you're trying to sell someone on Bob Dylan, you're not putting that on.
No,
Exactly. Yeah. Same
definitely
with
not.
this. If you're trying to convince someone that reggae music's the way to go, you're not going for this. But if
Right.
someone's already into a lot of those artists, you're like, something fun. And maybe they've already heard, the Trojan compilations, the other kind of like reggae album compilations. Um, this is just something fun because again, it's not going to really pop up on playlists because it's just one of those
True.
unknown albums. Like even the first track, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," all of the artists featured on this album wish the listeners a Merry Christmas. So it's
Huh.
like, hey, this is Ika Mouse wishing you a Merry Christmas. And like, hey, this is who's someone else on here? Peter Broggs wishing you a Merry Christmas. Like, just kind of cool, something kind of quirky.
Before what's it called where you hire someone? It's a cameo. Before
Exactly.
cameo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Before Cameo, they were wishing you a Merry Christmas. So just a fun album. It was definitely a thrift store find.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, there's something here. It's kind of fun. But again, just if you're already into that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's another one I want to check out. And I love that Ika Mouse. He's great too.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So before I get to the number one or the first pick or whatever, I had some honorable mentions, and
Yeah,
some of
go
them were
ahead.
in my collection and some weren't. So this one was kind of an obscurity. It was Imagine Peace. It came out as first, but it's actually just the Flaming Lips.
Oh,
Um, and they did this in, I believe it was '07, and it was just a CD release. And what they did is they tried to do one of those fictional bands, fictional artists,
right.
and they had this whole write up about how this is an album, and I guess they wanted the lady's name to be Imagine Peace. which of course is a play on words. And she's from Iraq, and her birthday's unknown, but she did this incredible recording at 18, and she's an amazing pianist. And then of course, it's like it's so Flaming Lips. I don't know who they were really trying to fool, and I'm sure their actual fans were on it. I don't remember in '07 this coming out. It came out so quietly, but by the time it actually dropped like 7 years later on record, I thought, okay, well, I'll have a bit of that then. But even the I don't know if it'll come up there, but even the credits are just made up names.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it's all the Flaming Lips, specifically Wayne and Steven. And it's mostly instrumental. There's some vocals going on, and some of them are kind of distorted or in the background, or it just kind of becomes a wash in the music. Like it's not like they're prominent, because again, they're trying to hide who they were initially. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the Frosty the Snowman one, but when they do Silent Night and Silver Bells and Winter Wonderland, they it has a psychedelic spin on it, of course, because it's the Flaming Lips, but it's actually quite reserved for them. It kind of sounds like if they did a soundtrack to something, like maybe a soundtrack to a slightly psychedelic Christmas movie or something like that. And they did do that Christmas on Mars movie, which I've never seen. So they have done some soundtrack work here and there, and they did some Harrison Ford sci-fi movie. Yeah, but it's an interesting curiosity, and I'm not quite sure how easy it is to get, but obviously it's not a record that Flaming Lips fans talk about much, because there really isn't too much to say. It's very, again, reserved. It doesn't have those big freakouts that some of their records have. It doesn't have a lot of pop to it like some of their late '90s, early 2000s records have. So it's kind of a footnote in the discography. But again, like all these records, if you're trying to get someone in the Flaming Lips, obviously you're not going to go for this. Rather, it's droney. There's sitars. Yeah, so if you want a psychedelic Christmas, definitely check this record out. And then I won't say as much about it, but there's a Ray Charles Christmas record, and that one's become a favorite of mine in recent years. Don't have a copy of it, but of course people will know it best because it's from his '80s era, which obviously is not talked about because it's so far away from, Mess Around and Hit the Road Jack. But that one song that features in the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, when Clark is stuck in the attic and he's looking at old film, that's a nice seminal scene from that movie, and you can get that song on it. And it's a good record. It opens up really strong with two really good songs. The rest of the A side's not very good, but the B side has some incredible stuff on it. So yeah, definitely Ray Charles as well. And then lastly, I wanted to mention, and you did a great job, so I won't say any more, but on Escape Hatch Records, the Black Market dub record, which brings us to, and I have no idea what happened to my copy of this, but
Yeah.
the Vince Guaraldi Trio
Oh,
record,
yeah.
which is probably, yeah,
Yeah, we
it's
got it. We
the
got it.
most
Yeah.
seminal thing ever, right?
Exactly.
And you picked it, so
Yeah,
there it is.
this is going to be one of my honorable mentions.
Okay,
I've listened to this a number of. I mean, this is the kind of thing we watch the special every year.
same, yeah,
Um, and I think in my head, I only ever think of Christmas Time Is Here, like both the vocal and the instrumental part. But just putting
instrumental,
this on
yeah.
and listening, I'm like, the version of O Tannenbaum, especially, I really like just the jet. Just you tell us about it. It's just great.
Oh, it's great. I mean, for me, like nothing really says Christmas like this record, and it might be the most cliched one I could pick, but it's just that good. Like it's the perfect record for Christmas, and we always put it on when we put up the tree. I'm quite a Peanuts fan myself, so I like the specials anyway. But there's just something warm and fuzzy about the holiday special and the soundtrack that goes along with it. And yeah, obviously it's not all Christmas because you have Green Sleeves on there,
Yeah.
and Linus and Lucy, which is it's become a Christmas song. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's just a song from all the other specials, and because this is so big, like 5 times platinum in the States, and I see it in and around the charts every Christmas. Even Linus and Lucy has kind of become synonymous with Christmas music somehow. I heard it in the grocery store, and it's like that's so weird, but it's just kind of a testament to Vince Guaraldi's talent. I mean, that guy died way too soon, and just yeah, basically a testament to the timelessness of the Peanuts holiday special. And as perfect as that little 25-minute short is, like, the music is just what brings it all home, and really ties everything together and gets you nostalgic when you're hearing the beautiful skating instrumental, or like you said, Christmas Time Is Here, which is probably one of my favorite Christmas songs.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's from the jazz record, or jazz era rather. So
Yeah.
it's pretty strange. So you have Fred Marshall on double bass, and Jerry Grinnell on drums on all tracks except Linus and Lucy and Greensleeves, which are the non-holiday songs. There you have Colin Bailey and Monty Budwig is on the double bass. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of an obvious choice, but it's definitely my most played Christmas album. And as overplayed as a couple of the tracks are, they never really get old to me. I think they're just incredible musicianship on those. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think you said it. So that was going to be my honorable mention. And as we're winding down, I'm going to go with this final tape here. This is a Motown Christmas,
Okay. Yeah.
which, I mean, again, we're talking about all these standards we hear all the time. Those are on here, right? You got, like, Santa Claus Is Coming to Town. You have a lot of Jacksons and Jackson 5. You have What Christmas Means to Me by Stevie Wonder. That's probably one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got, like, the Temptations, you got the Supremes, you got Smokey Robin, like, all these artists.
Oh yeah.
And this is a long album. This is like an hour and 20 minutes, which, start to end, that's a lot of Christmas music. But most people aren't just sitting down and listening to a Christmas album like they are some sort of massive piece. So this is just a great album, I think.
Yeah.
They're classics for a reason. I'll kind of end with that. They're classics for a reason. So let me just double check. Peeking behind the curtain, I'm not paying for Zoom Pro. So we got a couple of minutes left. Those are my Christmas picks. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts or anything else coming up for you?
No, I mean, they're just these are mostly good records to have on in the background, and like you said, most people aren't just sitting there listening to just that. But I'd say that that if you do, from me at least, you'd probably want to go for the Bob Dylan or the Vince Guaraldi. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I just hope that maybe we established a new favorite, or one to go and investigate for yourselves. And yeah, hope everyone enjoys their Christmas music with their eggnog and their fireplace and everything like that.
I'll echo those sentiments and say, yeah, give Bob Dylan a chance. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
He means it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like a joke at first, but check it out. But that's all for me. Thank you all for joining us today, and I'll catch you next time.